Denver, Colorado. The city's heart beats loudest when the world goes quiet. And on this bone-chilling January night, the streets are packed with the remnants of rush hour, streaked with the blue neon glow of distant signs and the hard white of streetlights on packed snow. In the bitter cold, most people rush past with their collars turned up and eyes lowered, chasing warmth and the next thing on their endless lists. Only those with nowhere to go drift in the spaces between, shadows pressed flat against frozen pavement. Tonight, one shadow limps beneath the sodium lights, head low, sides heaving. Major, once a proud German shepherd, now battered and broken, moves through the city as if each step might be his last. His left hind leg drags with every stride. Dried blood clings to his matted fur, mixing with ice that has hardened around his paws. The air tears at his lungs, each breath a silent plea to keep moving. He doesn't know how long he's been running, only that he has to keep going. Somewhere behind him, the world exploded, and everything he knew was lost to fire and chaos. He stops at the curb across from a steakhouse, the only warmth for blocks radiating through its fogged windows. Laughter and music drift outside when the door opens, and a delicious, meaty scent cuts through his hunger and pain. For a moment, Major forgets everything but the need to survive. He staggers forward, barely aware of the cars that hiss by, tires spitting slush. As he reaches the sidewalk, his vision blurs. His knees buckle. He collapses, unseen and unwanted, beside a trash can where people toss their leftovers. Inside the steakhouse, Officer Jamie Harris is finishing her shift meal at the counter, swirling cold coffee around in a chipped mug. She watches people through the window, businessmen, couples, college kids bundled in expensive coats, all passing each other by, never seeing anyone who doesn't fit. Her father's badge sits heavy in her coat pocket, a habit she can't break even though he's been gone for 3 years. She tells herself she isn't waiting for a sign, but her heart aches for something, anything, to break the numbness that's settled inside since she lost him. A flicker of movement outside catches her eye. At first, it's just a shape in the darkness, but as her eyes adjust, she sees the outline of a dog, big, limping, struggling to rise. She stands, something deep inside snapping to attention. She remembers being 6 years old, curled up beside her dad's K9 partner after a nightmare, soothed by the warmth and quiet strength of the old shepherd. That memory, nearly forgotten, hits her with unexpected force. Jamie grabs her coat and heads for the door, shoving past a group of waiters arguing about tips. Outside, the cold slaps her in the face. The street is louder now, honking horns, shouting, the screech of a bus pulling away. Jamie's eyes scan the sidewalk until she spots the shepherd, barely conscious, head resting on his paws. A car turns the corner too fast, skidding on black ice and heading straight for the dog. Jamie doesn't think. She runs, sprinting into the road as brakes squeal and the driver leans on the horn. For a split second, everything slows. Headlights gleam off the wet street. The dog's eyes flash wide with fear, and Jamie's heart lurches into her throat. "Hey, stop!" Jamie shouts, waving her arms. The car fishtails, coming so close she can smell the burning rubber. At the last second, Major heaves himself upright, pain forgotten, and leaps away from the bumper. He lands hard, tumbling into Jamie's legs. She stumbles, catching herself, and drops to her knees in the snow. For a moment, the world is only the two of them. Jamie breathing hard, and the battered dog, sides heaving. Their eyes meet, amber and green, pain and recognition. Survivors, both of them, clinging to the edge. The driver shouts something ugly and speeds off, tires spinning. Onlookers hurry by, muttering about crazy people and strays. But no one stops. Jamie reaches out, her voice gentle. "Easy, boy. You're okay. I've got you." Her hands tremble as she checks his body for wounds. Underneath the dirt and old scars, she finds a faded collar with a tag pressed tight to the leather. She squints in the low light. There's a number half worn away, and the glint of an old police insignia. A lump forms in her throat. "Who are you?" she whispers, more to herself than to him. Major stares back, shivering so hard his teeth chatter, but he doesn't back away. Jamie slides her arm under his chest, feeling the powerful muscle beneath the grime, and hoists him to his feet. He stumbles, but she steadies him, ignoring the stares from people who would rather pretend nothing unusual is happening. As they reach the vestibule of the steakhouse, a manager steps outside, arms crossed. "Hey, you can't bring that dog in here. Health code, he's filthy." Jamie holds her ground. "He's injured. I'll be gone in 5 minutes. Just need to get him warm." The manager scowls. "You cops think you can do whatever you want. Just make it quick, okay?" Jamie doesn't answer. She lowers Major onto the welcome mat, wrapping him in her coat. He shakes uncontrollably, head on her lap, ice melting into dark stains on the tile. She feels the familiar ache behind her eyes, the old grief twisting up again. This dog, this survivor, has been through hell and somehow made it back. Something about his silent plea cuts straight through her emotional armor. Jamie glances at the collar again. Her heart races. She's seen police K9 tags before. Her father's partner wore one years ago. But this dog, this moment, it feels like fate. As the snow falls harder outside, Jamie makes a silent promise. She won't let him be alone in the dark tonight. Somewhere deep in the city, sirens wail, echoing off the empty streets. But here, in the warm vestibule of a half-lit steakhouse, two lost souls have found each other, if only for a night. And though neither knows it yet, this moment will change both their lives forever. Chaos from the street lingers in Jamie's chest as she crouches beside Major in the cramped vestibule. Frost still clings to his fur, melting into small puddles around his paws. Jamie's hands, numbed by the cold, work quickly and gently to rub life back into the battered German shepherd. With every tremor running through his body, her resolve tightens. She glances over her shoulder, wary of the steakhouse manager's impatient eyes and the crowd that still filters past outside, oblivious to the drama unfolding a few feet away. Major pants in shallow bursts, eyes darting to every sharp noise, the rattle of dishes, the low roar of a bus passing by, the slap of a door against the wall. Jamie sees it all, the tension, the trained awareness, the haunted look that never quite leaves. She recognizes it from her own mirror, hypervigilance born of trauma. With a deep breath, she speaks softly, as if to an old friend. "Hang on, big guy. I'm going to help you." Ignoring the stares, Jamie reaches for her cell phone and dials the on-call emergency vet. "I need a pickup downtown," she explains, urgency clear in her voice. "German Shepherd, police tag, severe hypothermia and injuries. Meet me in the parking lot behind Higgins's steakhouse." She snaps the phone shut before the dispatcher can argue. A taxi driver, grumpy from a long shift, steps inside to warm up. He scowls at the sight of the wounded dog. "You can't just bring strays in here," he mutters, voice thick with annoyance. Jamie's jaw tightens. He's not a stray. He's an officer. She flashes her badge, the authority in her tone making him think twice before grumbling further. Outside, the snow picks up, flurries whirling beneath the streetlights. When the vet's battered van finally arrives, Jamie half carries, half coaxes Major into the back. The vet, a middle-aged woman named Dr. Lane, greets her with brisk efficiency. "Let's see what we're dealing with." She lifts Major onto a blanket, murmuring reassurances as she checks for wounds. As the van pulls away, Jamie follows in her cruiser, windshield wipers thudding back and forth, her mind spinning. At the clinic, the fluorescent lights make everything look sharper, more real. Dr. Lane gets to work, cutting away dirty fur, cleaning gashes, and checking for broken bones. He's dehydrated, but nothing life-threatening. You saved him just in time. She runs a scanner over the collar, a faint beep. Dr. Lane frowns, reading the tiny screen. "What is it?" Jamie asks, her nerves prickling. Dr. Lane looks up, surprise etched in her features. This dog was registered to the Denver Police Department. Name, Major, K9 Unit. She pauses, reading further. Status, deceased, 2 years ago. Jamie's heart thuds. Deceased? How? That can't be right. He's right here. The vet pulls up a file on the computer, tilting the screen so Jamie can see. Grainy photos flash by. Major as a younger, powerful dog in full gear, beside a smiling handler. The date on the screen is from 2 years back, beneath a headline, "Explosion during narcotics raid. Leaves officer dead, K9 missing, presumed killed." Jamie leans closer, taking in every detail. Her mind reels, piecing together the impossible. This dog was lost in the same kind of chaos that stole her father. Violence, fire, tragedy, and then the world simply moved on. The story on the screen paints a picture of heroism and heartbreak. Sergeant Tom Ridley, the handler, was killed in the blast. Major's body was never found. Officially, he was declared dead. His name quietly added to a list. His fate forgotten. But here he is, shivering on the exam table. Eyes still fierce and alive. Major whimpers, twitching in his uneasy sleep. Jamie feels a surge of empathy so fierce it almost hurts. She knows what it's like to be written off by the world, left behind when the headlines fade. Her own sense of being lost, of drifting through life since her father's death, sharpens into a single, burning purpose. "Can you run a full workup?" Jamie asks. "Check for old injuries, microchip, anything that tells us what happened after that night." Dr. Lane nods, her face thoughtful. "Of course. I'll sedate him and keep him under observation. You can stay if you like." Jamie doesn't hesitate. As the hours tick by, she sits on the cold metal chair, refusing to leave Major's side. She watches the slow rise and fall of his chest, every breath a small victory. With each passing minute, her connection to the dog grows, a silent promise that he will never be abandoned again. Later, when Major is resting comfortably, Jamie heads to the waiting room. She searches news archives on her phone, piecing together fragments. Police raids gone wrong, grieving families, a community moving on too fast. A single line catches her eye. Heroic K9, presumed dead, body never recovered. Handler's family declined comment. Her chest tightens with anger and sorrow. How many others had been lost and forgotten, written off when the story was no longer headline news? Back in the treatment room, Major wakes, lifting his head. He fixes Jamie with that same piercing stare. For a moment, there's understanding between them, deeper than words. She kneels beside him, stroking his head. "We're both survivors, aren't we?" she murmurs. "Maybe that means we're supposed to help each other." As dawn approaches and snow piles up outside, Jamie makes a decision. She won't turn Major over to animal control or let him disappear into the system. This dog, this living piece of unfinished business, deserves a chance at healing, at answers, just like she does. She signs the discharge papers, thanking Dr. Lane. "I'll take him home," Jamie says, voice firm. "He's not just a case file anymore." The streets are quieter now, washed in the pale blue of early morning. Jamie lifts Major gently into her car, cradling his head as he drifts in and out of sleep. She pulls away from the curb, a sense of mission blooming in her chest. For the first time in years, she feels something like hope. Fragile, flickering, but real. As they drive through the awakening city, Jamie glances at the battered dog beside her. "Whatever happened to you, Major, we're going to find out. And I promise, I won't let you get lost again." By the time Jamie pulls up to her small apartment building on the edge of 5 Points, the sky is brightening behind the city skyline. The storm has left everything slick and gleaming, streetlights reflecting off rivers of melting snow and ice. Jamie parks close to the entrance, glancing in the rearview mirror at Major curled up on the back seat, his breath fogging the window. There's an uneasy peace in the quiet, a lull that feels both hopeful and fragile. Inside, Jamie flips on the lights, the apartment revealing itself in warm gold. Her space is modest, cluttered with the habits of someone who spends too much time alone. Books stacked on every surface, a battered sofa with a patchwork blanket, old framed photos of her father in uniform and, in the background of one, barely noticeable, a younger Jamie hugging a huge German shepherd, the same deep brown eyes she now sees in Major. Major hesitates at the doorway, ears pinned back, tail low. He sniffs the threshold, pawing uncertainly at the rug. Jamie kneels and calls softly, "It's okay. You're safe here." The dog steps inside with wary reluctance, every muscle tight with caution. He circles the living room, nose to the ground, pausing at the kitchen's tile floor. A sudden clang, a pan falling from a drying rack, makes him whip around, body rigid, teeth bared. Jamie freezes, holding her breath. Major's eyes dart wildly for an escape route, and for a second, it's clear he's somewhere else, some place of smoke and chaos. "It's just a pan," Jamie murmurs, crouching low, her hands open and gentle. "No one's going to hurt you." The panic in Major's eyes slowly recedes, but he keeps his distance, tense and alert. Jamie lets him roam, turning her attention to the practicalities of care. She fills a bowl with water, sets out leftover roast chicken and rice, then steps back to give Major space. Hunger wins over suspicion. He edges forward and devours the food in ragged bites, glancing up between mouthfuls as if expecting it all to vanish. Afterward, Major paces restlessly, moving from room to room. He flinches at sudden sounds, the heater ticking on, a phone vibrating on the counter. Jamie recognizes the signs: hypervigilance, the lingering scars of trauma. She knows them all too well, having lived with them since the night her father died. A robbery gone wrong, a single shot in a dark alley, a life shattered in an instant. Sleep is a stranger to Jamie. She spends her nights watching old movies with the sound turned low, scrolling through headlines, never quite able to rest. Tonight, though, she feels a new kind of exhaustion, the weight of responsibility and possibility pressing down on her. She gathers blankets from the hall closet, making a soft bed for Major beside the radiator. He lies down, but doesn't close his eyes, head up, ears twitching at every noise. Unable to settle herself, Jamie sits cross-legged on the kitchen floor. She glances at Major, and on impulse begins to talk, haltingly at first, then with a growing need for honesty. "I don't sleep much either," she admits. "Not since Dad died. People say time heals everything, but I think it just hides the wounds under new layers, until you forget why you're hurting." Major's ears flick at the sound of her voice. He stretches out, head resting on his paws, watching her with a patient, ancient gaze. "I used to dream about being a cop," Jamie continues, voice barely above a whisper. "Dad made it seem like the most honorable thing in the world. Protect and serve, you know. But the reality is, it's messier. You lose people. You lose yourself sometimes." She traces the edge of a tile with her finger, feeling the cool ceramic ground her. "I thought I was helping people, but lately, I feel like I'm just surviving." Major stirs, a faint whimper in his sleep as if he's wrestling invisible demons. His legs twitch and his breathing quickens, a soft growl escaping his throat. Jamie slides closer, hesitantly resting her hand on his shoulder. He startles awake, eyes wild, but when he sees her, he relaxes just enough to stay. She keeps her touch gentle, offering comfort without demand. The hours pass slowly. At dawn, the city wakes outside. Garbage trucks rumbling, neighbors arguing in the hall, life pushing forward whether anyone's ready or not. Jamie dozes off beside Major, her head on her folded arms. When she wakes, sunlight pours through the blinds, striping the floor with gold. She finds Major at the window, nose pressed against the glass, watching the world below. His tail wags weakly when he notices her, a small gesture of trust. Jamie smiles for the first time in days. "How about a walk, old man?" she asks, reaching for the leash. The winter morning is brisk, the sky cloudless and blue. Major moves cautiously at her side, stopping often to sniff lampposts and piles of dirty snow. People cross the street to avoid them, some giving Jamie curious looks. She ignores them, focusing on the rhythm of their footsteps, the way Major's head lifts with each new scent. As they turn down a quiet side street, a siren wails in the distance. Major freezes, ears up, body trembling. Jamie kneels beside him, anchoring him with her presence. "It's okay," she whispers. "You're not alone." She waits until his breathing slows before continuing. Back at the apartment, Jamie feeds Major another meal and settles onto the couch, exhausted but strangely at peace. She scrolls through old news articles on her phone, piecing together the story of the explosion, the night Major's world ended and the night hers started to unravel. She finds images of Sergeant Tom Ridley, his smile wide and proud, a hand resting on Major's broad shoulders. The loss radiates from the screen, hitting Jamie like a wave. That night, Jamie dreams she's a little girl again, running through fields with a German shepherd at her side. The sky is endless, her father's laughter echoing in the air. When she wakes, Major is beside her on the couch, his head heavy on her lap, both of them finally finding a measure of rest. In that quiet, Jamie makes a silent vow. She will do everything in her power to help this broken hero heal. And maybe, in saving Major, she'll finally learn how to save herself. Sleep comes easier now, not deeply, but enough. Jamie wakes in the soft blue of early morning to find Major curled beside her, his chest rising and falling in rhythm with her own breath. The city is quiet for once, as if holding its breath for something sacred. Jamie sits up slowly, careful not to disturb the dog, and for a moment, just watches him sleep. She wonders what he dreams about. Running through fields, maybe, or chasing tennis balls across sunlit grass, but she knows, because she's lived it herself, that dreams aren't always kind. Sometimes they're just memories that refuse to let go. When Major finally wakes, he greets her with a cautious wag, eyes brightening for a second before Shadow returns. Jamie stretches, feeling aches in her back from a night on the sofa. She pulls on her thickest sweater, laces up her boots, and grabs the leash. "Let's get some fresh air," she says quietly. Major stands, hesitates, then follows her out. The sidewalks are still dusted with frost, the city not yet awake. Jamie leads Major along their now familiar route, turning down quieter streets where the only sounds are their footsteps and the occasional bird. In the hush, Jamie's thoughts wander back to her father, how he used to walk these same streets before sunrise, his K9 partner at his side, both of them silent sentinels for a city that never truly slept. As they walk, Jamie begins researching Major's past in earnest. She starts at the precinct, logging onto the department's internal database between shifts, combing through old case files and K9 unit records. She finds his service record, a long list of commendations, successful narcotics busts, and letters of gratitude from grateful families. Major was a star, partnered with Sergeant Tom Ridley for nearly 8 years. Their bond, captured in dozens of photographs and field reports, leaps off the page. A man and his dog, inseparable in life, and supposedly united in death. But something gnaws at Jamie. The official record ends abruptly. A narcotics raid, an explosion, Ridley killed instantly, Major presumed dead. There's no follow-up, no search for the missing K9, no memorial, just a brief line in the after-action report. K9 lost, status, deceased. It feels wrong, unfinished, as if someone was in a hurry to forget. Jamie digs deeper, calling old contacts, retired cops, former K9 handlers, even a local journalist who covered the explosion. Most remember the chaos, the confusion, but no one can say for sure what happened to Major after the blast. Some are surprised he's even alive. Jamie records every detail in her worn notebook, determined to piece together the puzzle. Each day, Jamie and Major develop a ritual. They walk before dawn, when the city is soft and forgiving. Major's trust grows by increments. He stops flinching at every loud sound, starts leaning into Jamie's touch, and even plays a clumsy game of tug-of-war with an old sock. Jamie finds herself talking to him constantly, about her work, her grief, the anger she feels at the world's unfairness. In Major, she senses not just a companion, but a reflection of her own fractured soul. One morning, as the sun breaks the horizon, Major suddenly halts at the edge of an abandoned industrial park. He stiffens, nose in the air, ears pricked forward. The hair along his spine rises as he growls low, the sound vibrating through Jamie's bones. She follows his gaze to a decrepit warehouse, windows boarded and walls scrawled with graffiti. The building looms, silent and forbidding, an island of decay in the waking city. Jamie studies the warehouse, heart thumping. She knows this place. It was mentioned in the raid report, the last known location of Major and Sergeant Ridley. Jamie tugs gently on the leash, but Major refuses to move, digging in his paws. He stares at the boarded door, growling louder now, teeth bared. The reaction is visceral, raw, as if some buried memory has clawed its way to the surface. Instinct tells Jamie to listen. She crouches beside Major, peering through a crack in the plywood. Inside, darkness reigns, dust swirling in shafts of light. There's a heavy silence, broken only by the distant sound of traffic. Jamie's pulse pounds in her ears as she pulls out her phone, snapping photos of the exterior, the faded police tape, and the old, rusted lock on the door. "Did something happen to you here?" Jamie asks softly, glancing at Major. He whines, head low, but refuses to leave. Jamie presses her hand to his fur, feeling the tremor of old fear and the tension of a question without an answer. They linger at the warehouse until the city comes alive around them, delivery trucks groaning past, a dog barking somewhere far off, a commuter cursing into his phone. Finally, Major relents, letting Jamie lead him home. But the shadow of the warehouse follows them, a puzzle piece that won't fit until the whole picture is revealed. Back in her apartment, Jamie sits at her laptop, surrounded by coffee cups and scraps of paper. She rereads the raid report, tracing every detail. There's something about the warehouse, a hint of unfinished business, evidence left behind, a secret waiting to be uncovered. She decides she'll go back, with or without backup. Major paces restlessly, unable to settle. That night, he whimpers in his sleep, legs twitching as if running from something he can't escape. Jamie curls beside him, soothing him with gentle words and steady hands. "You're safe now," she whispers. "Whatever happened, we'll face it together." As dawn breaks on another day, Jamie feels a shift, a fragile sense of purpose, a reason to hope. She and Major are still broken, but together maybe they can heal what was left in the shadows. Snow flurries drift through the morning air as Jamie stands outside the abandoned warehouse, heart pounding with anticipation. For days, the image of Major growling at this boarded-up building has haunted her, refusing to be forgotten. She waits until the neighborhood quiets down, then returns, this time armed with a flashlight, her badge, and a stubborn resolve she hasn't felt in years. Major walks beside her, alert and focused, every sense on high alert. He pauses at the threshold, nose twitching as he sniffs along the door's base, tail stiff. Jamie feels a chill that has nothing to do with the cold. Something happened here, something terrible and unfinished. She circles the building, searching for an entry point. A narrow window, glass shattered and frame loose, offers just enough space for her to squeeze through. She boosts herself up, Major waiting anxiously below until she pulls open the old metal door from inside. He darts in ahead of her, moving low and cautious, nose to the floor. Dust motes swirl in the beam of Jamie's flashlight as they enter the belly of the warehouse. The air is stale, thick with the scent of mold, rust, and old smoke. Shadows cling to the rafters, and every footstep echoes with the ghosts of the past. Jamie sweeps her light across the debris-strewn floor, her nerves prickling as she imagines the chaos that must have erupted here on that fateful night. Major's behavior shifts. His movements are purposeful, searching. He stops at a pile of charred wood, digging furiously. Jamie kneels, sifting through the rubble until her fingers close around something hard and metallic. She pulls out a battered police badge, its surface scorched, but still legible. Her breath catches as she reads the name. Ridley. She turns the badge over in her palm, the metal cold against her skin, and the reality of Ridley's last moments hits her with a force that makes her stagger. Major presses forward, nosing through the debris. He uncovers a piece of cloth, blood-stained and faded, its pattern barely visible beneath layers of soot. Jamie's mind races. This must have belonged to Ridley, lost in the explosion that changed everything. She photographs the badge and the cloth, careful not to disturb the evidence. Something metallic glints under a collapsed shelving unit. Jamie crawls over, heart thumping, and finds a small, dust-covered USB drive, half melted but intact. She pockets the drive, hands trembling. "You did good, Major," she whispers, voice thick with emotion. The dog looks up, eyes shining with purpose, a silent acknowledgement of the role he played in uncovering the truth. Back in the safety of her car, Jamie examines the evidence. She places the badge and cloth in evidence bags, her fingers lingering on Ridley's name. The USB drive is the real wild card. She can't help but feel the weight of responsibility. This could be the missing link, the clue that finally explains what happened on that disastrous raid. At the precinct, Jamie checks in with the watch sergeant, keeping her discoveries to herself for now. In the privacy of a side office, she plugs the USB drive into her laptop, holding her breath as the screen flickers to life. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, a folder opens. Files with timestamps from the day of the explosion. There are surveillance videos, scanned documents, even voice memos. She clicks on the first video. The shaky footage shows Ridley and Major preparing for the raid. Ridley's voice comes through, tense but determined. "If anything goes wrong, get Major out." The timestamp is just minutes before the explosion. Jamie's chest tightens as she listens, the raw humanity in Ridley's voice cutting through the static. She watches as officers breach the warehouse, the camera panning to stacks of suspicious crates and men with weapons drawn. Then, chaos. Gunfire, shouting, the camera dropping to the floor. The video ends in static. Jamie leans back, exhaling shakily. She scrolls through the other files. One is a scan of a handwritten list of names, apparently associates of a notorious drug lord the department has been chasing for years. Another file is a memo, marked confidential, describing suspected leaks within the department, officers whose loyalty is in question. Jamie's mind races. The implications are staggering. Someone may have tipped off the criminals, leading to Ridley's death and Major's disappearance. She closes her eyes, overwhelmed by the tangled threads of betrayal and loss. When she opens them, Major is at her side, resting his head on her knee. His presence anchors her, bringing her back to the present. She strokes his fur, grateful for his unwavering loyalty. That evening, Jamie calls in a favor from an old friend in IT, asking him to recover any corrupted files from the drive. While she waits, she returns to the warehouse, combing the area for anything she missed. The street is deserted, the city's noise held at bay by the gravity of what she's uncovered. She retraces her steps, shining her light along the cracked walls. In a corner, she finds the remnants of a flare and shell casings, tagged and left behind by the original crime scene team. Jamie bags them, her mind replaying the raid, the betrayal, the loss. Back home, she sprawls on the floor beside Major, the evidence spread between them. She speaks quietly, as if sharing secrets with an old friend. "You remembered, didn't you? You never forgot what happened." Major lifts his head, tail thumping softly. A sense of purpose surges in Jamie. For the first time since her father died, she feels like a cop again. A real one, fighting for justice, not just chasing paperwork and ghosts. She leans against Major, letting the dog's steady heartbeat calm her racing thoughts. Later, Jamie receives a call from her IT friend. "You need to see this," he says. "There's more on that drive. Encrypted files, and some look like financial records. This is big, Jamie." She thanks him, a spark of hope lighting inside. The pieces are coming together. The evidence points to more than just a tragic raid. It hints at corruption, at a betrayal that cost lives and nearly destroyed a hero. Jamie looks at Major, her voice steady. We're not done yet. Tomorrow, we take this to the top. And this time, no one's going to bury the truth. As snow falls quietly outside, Jamie and Major sit together in the dim light, survivors on the brink of something bigger than themselves, a reckoning long overdue. Night blurs into dawn, but Jamie barely notices the passing hours. Evidence crowds her kitchen table. Ridley's scorched badge, the blood-stained cloth, the loaded USB drive, each piece a memory of betrayal and a promise of justice. Major dozes at her feet, twitching in dreams, his loyalty a silent anchor. Jamie can't shake the adrenaline that hums beneath her skin. The files recovered from the USB drive point to something far more sinister than a botched raid. Names, dates, financial transactions, and encrypted documents suggest a network that runs deeper than anyone imagined. She contacts Internal Affairs, leaving only the barest details, her gut warning her to trust no one until she's certain. Too many things still don't add up, and the memo on suspected leaks has her watching her own back. That morning, Jamie returns to the precinct in plain clothes, blending in among the off-duty officers and detectives coming and going. She checks her locker for listening devices or evidence of tampering. Nothing. Still, she feels exposed, as if unseen eyes are tracking her every move. She pulls up the digital evidence on her secure laptop, cross-referencing the names from the USB with arrest records and old case files. Patterns begin to emerge. Arrests that never stuck, suspects who vanished, raids that always went sideways. The same names keep appearing, and so do the same locations. Warehouses, safe houses, all linked to the notorious drug lord the department's been after for years. Major sits at her side, ears perked, sensing her tension. The old dog's training is coming back in flashes. When Jamie paces the apartment, he follows close, checking corners and watching the door. The bond between them tightens, the silent understanding of two survivors preparing for another storm. Jamie makes a decision. If they're going to bring down the network that killed Ridley and left Major for dead, she'll have to go undercover. She calls in a favor from Detective Ortiz, one of the few she trusts. I need backup, she says, voice low. But keep it tight. We might have leaks. Ortiz doesn't ask questions. Send me the files. I'll get the SWAT commander on standby. Where are you headed? Jamie outlines her plan. Surveillance first. She's tracked a lead to a downtown club, a favorite hangout of the drug lord's associates, and a suspected front for money laundering. It's risky, but she can't ignore the gut feeling that this is where answers and danger wait. She and Major slip into the night, blending with the city's restless energy. The club is loud and packed, bass thumping through concrete, a haze of perfume, sweat, and spilled liquor. Jamie watches from across the street, hidden behind a row of parked cars. Major stays low, tail still, every muscle ready. Through an earpiece, Ortiz relays updates. No movement yet. Our guy should show soon. An hour passes. Suddenly, Major stiffens, nose twitching. He lets out a soft, urgent bark, eyes trained on a side alley. Jamie follows his gaze and spots two men slipping through a security door, one of them matching a description from the raid. Tall, scarred, always wearing a Denver Broncos cap. Jamie signals Ortiz and follows, her heart pounding. She and Major move as a unit, her flashlight stashed in one hand, the other resting on the grip of her service weapon. The alley is shadowed and slick, trash cans overflowing. As she rounds the corner, a third figure emerges, a lookout. He starts at the sight of Major and reaches for his belt, but Jamie steps between them. "Don't," she says, her voice cold and clear. The man hesitates, eyeing the dog. Major growls, low and threatening. The standoff lasts a tense moment before the lookout backs down, disappearing into the night. Jamie presses on, entering the building behind the suspects. The walls pulse with muffled music, but upstairs, another world unfolds. A smoky back room, men huddled around a table piled with cash and ledgers. Major leads the way, his instincts sharp. Jamie's heart hammers as she snaps photos with her phone. Faces, documents, drugs in hidden compartments. A sharp click from a door behind her sends her spinning, gun drawn. One of the suspects charges at her, swinging a length of pipe. Major launches, intercepting the man with a thunderous bark. The pipe glances off the dog's side, but Major refuses to let go, wrestling the attacker to the ground as Jamie cuffs him, adrenaline surging through her veins. Gunshots ring out from the club below. Jamie shouts into her radio, "Go, go, SWAT, move in!" Within seconds, the building shakes with the thunder of boots and shouted commands. Ortiz and the SWAT team flood the stairwell, clearing room after room. Major stays by Jamie's side, alert and ready, even as chaos erupts around them. In a locked closet, Jamie finds a terrified rookie officer, Officer Lane, who'd gone missing days earlier. She's shaken, hands zip-tied, but alive. Jamie quickly frees her, offering water and comfort. "You're safe now. You're not alone." Major licks the rookie's trembling hand, earning a teary laugh. The SWAT team rounds up the suspects, and Ortiz takes charge of evidence collection, making sure nothing disappears this time. Later, as the last ambulance leaves and the club empties out, Jamie sits on the curb with Major pressed against her side. She's shaking, sweat cooling on her skin, every muscle burning with fatigue. The rookie officer sits nearby, wrapped in a blanket, gratitude and awe in her eyes as she looks at Major. "You saved me," she whispers, voice cracking. Jamie nods, emotion choking her words. "No, he saved us all." For a long moment, Jamie simply breathes, her hand buried in Major's thick fur. Tonight, she found not only a missing officer, but a new sense of purpose, a reminder that courage is acting in the face of fear, and that loyalty can save more than one life at a time. As police cars roll away and the city settles into uneasy quiet, Jamie promises herself she'll see this case through to the end. She owes it to Ridley. She owes it to Major. And for the first time in years, she feels ready for the fight ahead. Daylight leaks through the curtains as Jamie wakes from a shallow sleep, her muscles still vibrating with adrenaline from the night before. Major is sprawled beside her, paws twitching in a dream, the faint line of the fresh bruise on his side visible where the metal pipe struck him. She brushes her hand gently over his head and feels a fierce, protective gratitude. He had put himself between her and danger without a moment's hesitation. She's determined. She won't let him pay the price for her fight. By midday, the precinct is buzzing with rumors. Word of the successful raid has spread, along with the news that a rookie officer was recovered alive and several key associates of the drug ring are now in custody. Jamie fields questions from fellow officers, some of whom eye her with a newfound respect, others with suspicion, especially after Internal Affairs begins quietly interviewing staff about leaks within the department. She answers only what's necessary. She can sense that the web of corruption, the same one that doomed Ridley, is coiling tighter. Back at her apartment, Jamie reviews the evidence again. The files from the USB drive, photos from the warehouse, transcripts of calls and texts pulled from seized phones. The last piece falls into place when Ortiz calls her on a secure line. "We've got a hit," he says. "The big guy, the drug lord, he's not running. He's holed up in a mansion out in the suburbs. And Jamie, he's got an army." Jamie glances at Major, who is sitting up now, eyes alert, tail wagging in anticipation. She ruffles his ears, feeling the resolve settle in her chest. "Then we bring the fight to him," she says, voice low. Preparations begin immediately. SWAT gears up for a raid on the mansion, officers armored and tense, rifles slung, radios hissing with coded chatter. Jamie checks her weapon, clips on her vest, and runs a reassuring hand over Major's broad back. She is allowed to bring Major, now considered both evidence and partner, and there's a hush of awe as the other officers watch him move with quiet discipline through the briefing room. Ortiz lays out the plan. "Main entrance here. Second team flanking from the north. Jamie, you and Major move with me. We need his nose and his instincts." Jamie nods, her heart racing but her mind clear. The drive to the mansion is a blur of flashing lights and nerves. The neighborhood is quiet, upscale. Long driveways, manicured lawns, luxury SUVs parked under frosted oaks, SWAT fans out, fanning the perimeter. Jamie crouches behind a low hedge, Major pressed against her knee waiting for the signal. Then, chaos. The battering ram crashes through the door, shouts of "Police! Search warrant!" echo down marble hallways. Jamie and Major surge forward with Ortiz, smoke grenades rolling along polished floors. Gunfire cracks from upstairs, automatic, angry, wild. Jamie ducks behind a column as bullets spray the wall, marble chips stinging her face. Major stays low, his body a tense coil, waiting for Jamie's word. A suspect bursts from a side room, weapon raised. Jamie fires first, a clean shot to the shoulder. The man drops, howling, and Major leaps over him, racing down a side hallway as if drawn by invisible memory. Jamie follows, heart hammering, a flash of motion, a second shooter, taking aim at Jamie from a balcony. She dives, but before she can fire, Major hurls himself into the line of fire, barking with ferocious authority. The gunman flinches, missing his shot, and Jamie fires back, bringing him down. She scrambles to Major's side, fingers probing his fur, frantic. Blood wells on his side. He took the bullet meant for her. "Stay with me, buddy," she pleads, voice tight with terror. But Major is conscious, tail thumping weakly. There's no time for panic. With the hallway secure, Jamie calls for medics, then presses on, fueled by rage and grief. In the master bedroom, Ortiz and SWAT corner the drug lord, who tries to flee through a hidden door. Jamie intercepts him, slamming him against the wall with a strength she didn't know she had. "You killed Ridley. You left Major to die. This ends now," she snarls, cuffing him as the SWAT camera records it all. The suspect spits blood and curses, but there's no fight left in him. SWAT sweeps the mansion, recovering stacks of cash, ledgers, unregistered weapons, and the evidence that will finally tie this man to the explosions, the betrayals, and Ridley's murder. Medics rush in to treat Major, who whimpers softly but licks Jamie's hand, eyes bright with the old, stubborn spark. When the dust settles, Jamie sits in the back of an ambulance, refusing to leave Major's side. His breathing is ragged, his fur sticky with blood, but the paramedics are confident. He's tough, and the wound isn't fatal. Jamie strokes his head, whispering thanks and promises she intends to keep. Ortiz crouches beside her, helmet under one arm. "You did it, Jamie. You both did." Jamie shakes her head. "We did it for Ridley. for everyone who thought justice was out of reach. As the sun sets behind the ruined mansion, casting long shadows across the snow, Jamie feels the first real peace she's known in years. She watches as Major, bandaged and brave, basks in the admiration of the SWAT team and rookie officers, every one of them recognizing what it means to stand between darkness and light. Tonight, justice has a name, and it's Major. Hospital lights flicker softly as Jamie sits beside Major's kennel, her hands tucked into the sleeves of her hoodie, fighting off the exhaustion that threatens to pull her under. It's been a sleepless blur. Paperwork, interviews, phone calls from detectives, and now this quiet vigil in the veterinary trauma unit, where Major recovers after surgery. The bullet wound was clean, the vet reassured her, but Major's body is old and battered. He sleeps now, ribs rising and falling in slow, steady rhythm as IV fluids drip quietly nearby. Jamie isn't alone for long. Officers visit in small groups, some dropping off flowers and treats, others just standing in the doorway, hats in hand, awkward with gratitude. Detective Ortiz brings coffee and news. The DA's moving fast. Your evidence is solid. They're building a case, and it's going to stick this time. He glances at Major and shakes his head in disbelief. I never thought I'd see the day when an old dog brings down half the city's underworld. Jamie manages a tired smile. As word spreads, the department organizes an official ceremony. For Jamie, the attention feels strange. She spent so long in the shadows, fighting her battles alone, she almost flinches when the captain shakes her hand and thanks her in front of the entire precinct. But when the day of the ceremony arrives, she can't help but feel a swelling of pride as she stands at the front of the crowded room, Major by her side, fur still patchy, but eyes clear and alert. Reporters jostle for photos. Television cameras pan over the rows of officers, veterans, rookies, and everyone in between, clapping as the chief presents Jamie with a commendation and hands Major the Medal of Valor. The big German shepherd seems to understand the weight of the moment. He sits up straighter, ears perked, tail thumping softly against the polished floor. Jamie kneels and fastens the medal to his collar, blinking back tears as she whispers, "You did it, hero. You found your way home." After the ceremony, the city throws itself into celebration. Stories of Major's courage flood social media and the news, and people from all walks of life send letters, toys, and donations to the local K9 rescue. Strangers stop Jamie on the street to shake her hand, to kneel and scratch Major behind the ears, to share stories of their own dogs lost and found. The outpouring of support is overwhelming, and for Jamie, a revelation. There is more goodness in the world than she'd allowed herself to believe. Still, the public applause can't fill the private void Jamie feels at night. The adrenaline is gone. The case is closed. What remains are quiet mornings with Major, slow walks through city parks, and a new sense of belonging she hasn't felt since her father died. She files the adoption papers, officially making Major hers. On the day it becomes final, she buys him a new collar. Deep blue leather with a silver tag engraved, "Major always home." They settle into a new routine. Jamie volunteers to speak at community centers, telling the story of the raid, the rescue, and the redemption of an old hero. She finds that sharing the story helps others open up about their own losses. Cops with PTSD, families who lost loved ones to violence, survivors of all kinds. At one event, a young boy asks if Major still remembers his first handler. Jamie kneels beside the boy and explains, "Dogs don't forget the people they love. He still carries Ridley in his heart, just like I carry my dad." One crisp Sunday, Jamie and Major drive out to the cemetery on the city's edge. The sky is a brilliant, cloudless blue. Sunlight glints off rows of polished headstones. Jamie walks with Major to Sergeant Ridley's grave, pausing before the marker etched with his name and badge number. For a long, quiet moment, Jamie lets Major sniff the stone, watching as the old dog sits and gazes at the spot where his partner rests. Jamie kneels, her hand on Major's back, her voice soft. "We're both here, Tom. He made it home. And because of him, I did too." She unclips Major's Medal of Valor and lays it at the base of the stone, a tribute not just to Ridley, but to every officer, human and K9, who's ever been lost and remembered. There's a quiet dignity in the act, a sense of closure Jamie hadn't expected. As she rises, Major lingers a moment longer, then turns and presses his nose into Jamie's hand. She smiles, blinking away tears that feel different this time, cleansing, not bitter. News of the tribute spreads. Inspired by Jamie and Major, the department launches a new program for retired K9s, better care, permanent homes, and therapy for officers struggling with trauma. Jamie finds herself at the center of something bigger than any single case. She's asked to help design the program, and for the first time in years, she feels useful beyond the badge. She talks about loyalty, about healing, about how sometimes the most broken souls are the ones who show us the way back. One evening, as Major snores at her feet and the city lights blink outside her window, Jamie writes in her journal. She reflects on the journey, how she found a lost dog in the snow and, in saving him, found herself. She writes, "Maybe the real hero's journey isn't about winning a single battle. Maybe it's about surviving, loving, and starting again. And so, life goes on. Not perfect, but better." Jamie and Major are no longer alone. Together, they are proof that even from the deepest shadows, hope can find its way home. The city, once a backdrop of loneliness for Jamie, feels changed now. She and Major walk its streets in the gentle hush of early morning, a quiet parade of two. Every day is still a challenge. Pain lingers, memories surface at unexpected moments. But Jamie sees the world with new eyes, as if loss has sharpened her appreciation for small victories and fleeting joys. In the rhythmic sound of Major's nails on the sidewalk and the warmth of his steady presence at her side, she finds an anchor, a reminder that healing is real, if sometimes slow. Jamie begins to keep a journal again, filling pages with her thoughts and the lessons that grow from her journey. The habit, once lost in the tide of grief, now grounds her. Her entries are honest, raw, reflections on what she's learned, not just from her own struggle but from the quiet hero at her side. Loyalty. Jamie writes of the way Major never gave up, on his handler, on her, and on himself. Even after the world labeled him dead, even after betrayal and heartbreak, he fought to survive. True loyalty, she pens late one night, isn't about sticking around when things are easy. It's about refusing to give up on someone when the whole world says to walk away. She thinks of Ridley, of her father, of the people who've loved her through her worst moments, and she feels a bittersweet gratitude. As part of her new role with the department's outreach program, Jamie visits community centers and schools, sharing Major's story. At first, public speaking feels unnatural. Her voice trembles, her hands sweat. But as she sees how the story resonates, especially with kids and veterans carrying wounds of their own, her nerves give way to purpose. Parents bring their children to meet Major, who has learned to bask in the attention, tail sweeping the floor as small hands stroke his head. Survivors of violence, addiction, even war, find something in the tale of a lost dog and a broken officer that mirrors their own fight to keep going. Healing. Jamie learns and teaches that trauma doesn't disappear. It lingers, sometimes for years, in scars that are both visible and invisible. But she sees how healing comes not just through time, but through connection. A cold nose nudging her awake on a bad morning. The steady cadence of dawn walks. The comfort of a silent companion. She tells the audience, "We survived, Major and I, but real healing started when we stopped trying to do it alone." She encourages others to reach out, to let someone in, even if the first step is hard. Courage. Jamie reflects often on the nature of courage, not just the bold, headline-grabbing kind, but the quiet, daily acts of getting up, of choosing hope when it would be easier to shut down. Major's bravery wasn't just in the raid or the bite marks on his muzzle, but in the way he trusted her again after all he'd lost. Jamie admits her own courage took longer to return. "Sometimes the bravest thing," she writes, "is letting yourself hope again after you've been hurt." Redemption and purpose. Perhaps the deepest lesson, Jamie realizes, is that no one is too broken to matter. For years, she thought her pain set her apart, made her weaker, but in learning Major's story and fighting to bring him home, she discovered strength she'd buried. "We were both lost and grieving," she writes, "but in fighting for each other, we found new reasons to hope, to serve, to belong." The department's new K-9 program grows rapidly, offering therapy for officers, homes for retired dogs, and opportunities for community healing. Jamie becomes an advocate, her story opening doors for others who thought they were alone. Some evenings, Jamie finds herself sitting on her apartment floor, Major's head resting in her lap, her journal open beside her. She listens to city sounds drifting through the window, distant sirens, children laughing, the whistle of a train. She reflects on how far they've come, from a lonely night outside a steakhouse to ceremonies, tributes, and new beginnings. She thinks of the kids who've written thank you notes, the veteran who found hope to seek counseling after hearing her speak, the officer who approached her in tears and whispered, "You made me feel less alone." Every story, every connection, feels like a stone in a bridge between her old life and something new. Sometimes Major whimpers in his sleep, haunted by old ghosts. Jamie soothes him gently, whispering promises she means to keep. "You're home. You're safe. We'll face the shadows together." And in those moments, she realizes her pain, once isolating, has become a bridge to others. Instead of feeling alone in her suffering, she's become part of a community, all of them walking their own winding roads toward healing. One autumn afternoon, as golden leaves fall outside her window, Jamie finishes a journal entry with a quiet certainty. Every scar tells a story, not of defeat, but of survival. Every act of compassion, no matter how small, is a chance to change the course of a life. Sometimes, you end up saving 2 souls at once. Major sighs contentedly at her feet, and Jamie smiles. The future isn't perfect, and the past will always leave its marks. But side by side, in the lingering light of their shared survival, Jamie knows they've both become something more than what they lost. They've become a reason for hope. Months slip by, and each new sunrise finds Jamie and Major stepping further from the shadows of their old lives. Their story has taken on a life of its own, rippling out into the community. No longer just a tale of a lost dog and a grieving officer, but a testament to resilience, to the possibility of new beginnings after the darkest nights. Jamie embraces her new role with the department's outreach program, partnering with Major to visit schools, community centers, even local veterans groups. Everywhere they go, Major is greeted as a celebrity. Kids crowd around him, giggling as they run their fingers through his thick fur. Parents and teachers gather close, drawn in by the gravity of Jamie's quiet presence and the courage it took for her to stand before them. She tells their story, not with the polish of a practiced speaker, but with the honesty of someone who knows how much hope can mean when you have nothing left. Their visits become a ritual. On a typical afternoon, Jamie and Major step into a bright school gym, sunlight pouring through high windows. Children sit cross-legged on the polished floor, eyes wide, whispers passing among them. Jamie takes a deep breath, her heart steady now, and introduces herself and Major. She doesn't hide the hard parts, the loss, the pain, the fear. Instead, she speaks of what came after. Everyone goes through hard times, she says, her voice gentle but strong. Sometimes you lose someone you love, or you feel invisible, like nobody could understand. But the truth is, you're never as alone as you think. She talks about the night she found Major, shivering and half-starved in the snow, and how that moment changed both of their lives. She describes the long road back, the slow building of trust, the decision to fight for answers, the courage to keep going even when hope seemed lost. We both had scars, she says, but we learned those scars don't mean you're broken forever. They just mean you survived. After every talk, there's a quiet moment where children come forward, sometimes shyly, sometimes in a rush, to pet Major or press their faces into his fur. Some tell Jamie about their own dogs or family members they've lost. Others simply hug her and say, "Thank you." She always tells them, "You're braver than you know." She means it. With veterans, the connection is deeper, tinged with the unspoken knowledge of shared trauma. At a local veterans group, Jamie sits in a circle of battered folding chairs, Major curled at her feet. Men and women, some with missing limbs, others with haunted eyes, listen as she recounts not just Major's story, but her own struggle with grief and guilt. There's no timetable for healing, she tells them. No map, just the next right step. Sometimes all you need is a friend who refuses to give up on you. She shares the biggest lesson she's learned. Resilience isn't about escaping pain, but about moving through it, side by side with those who understand. She looks around the circle and sees heads nodding, eyes glistening, backs straightening. Afterward, one of the older veterans grips her hand and whispers, "You gave me hope again." Jamie feels something settle inside her, a sense of peace that comes not from forgetting the past, but from helping others find their own light beyond the darkness. Major, too, finds new purpose. He becomes the face of the department's retired K9 initiative, the reason new resources are funneled into therapy for both dogs and officers. The City Council passes a resolution honoring him and all K9s, ensuring they're cared for when their working days are done. Jamie is asked to consult on training programs to help bridge the gap between officers and the communities they serve. She never thought her pain could be useful to others, but every thank you letter and every tearful handshake reminds her how far she's come and how much healing is possible for everyone. One golden afternoon, Jamie and Major walk through the city park, the air humming with laughter and the soft clang of children playing. A group of kids gather for an impromptu story hour, clustered on the grass around Jamie and Major. Parents sit on benches, some wiping their eyes as Jamie shares the story one more time. As she finishes, she sees Major surrounded by gentle hands, soaking up every bit of love. When the sun begins to set, painting the sky in streaks of amber and violet, Jamie sits quietly and watches the world go by. She thinks of Ridley, of her father, of the lonely nights when she thought she'd never feel at home again. Now there's laughter and light, and the sense that her story and Major's has made a difference. In that moment, she feels truly home. As darkness falls, Jamie stands and addresses the group with a final message, her voice clear and strong. If you see someone struggling in the shadows, don't look away. Your act of kindness might not just save them, but could bring your own life into the light. Give the overlooked a chance. You never know what kind of hero is waiting to return. Her words linger in the evening air as families gather up their children and say goodbye. Jamie glances down at Major, who meets her gaze with a look that says everything: love, loyalty, survival, and a future worth believing in. Together they walk toward home, side by side. Later, as Jamie writes in her journal by the glow of a desk lamp, she sums up the story she hopes others will remember. Every scar is a chapter. Every chapter is a chance to heal. And sometimes, the greatest heroes are those who simply refuse to give up on each other. She closes her notebook and looks at Major, already dreaming on his bed. For the first time, her heart is light, her path forward clear. The city sleeps, but hope, quiet, patient, steadfast, shines on, waiting to be found by anyone willing to step out of the shadows.